Afternoon, Charmaine. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. So nice to see you,
Oh, it's
Zindi.
nice to see you. I'm glad that we're actually remaining to our commitment to meet on a regular basis. How are you feeling from our last meeting? How have things been?
You know what? I really enjoyed it, and I
Yeah.
must say it's really forced me to think deeply about my work life and so many at so many levels. So
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed it.
So, Charmaine, it's been 3 months in your new management position. I mean, my goodness, I can't imagine what you're going through. I remember the first time I had to lead people and a team and try and get results through them. My gosh, it was daunting. I mean, I had one or two employees that did not play ball at all, and then the work had shifted, and I found that I'm managing people but also expected to deliver. I just thought, let me check in. How are you doing in the past 3 months? What have been your successes?
You know what? I must say, for me, I liked the move from a very corporate culture to this more entrepreneurial culture. It's a very performance-driven culture, and that suits my personality. So I really enjoy the tough deadlines, the people, and you know what? There's no 9 to 5 job here. We really go for it.
Yeah, you actually work even harder.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Oh, great. And the team? How are you finding the team you're working with?
You know what? I find it very diverse, and there's a lot of. In the beginning, there were, I think, a little bit of challenge with just getting to know everybody. But now, I think we all hook in and we do what we have to do. We've got frequent meetings, talking about things, so it's going well. Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. So, any challenges or barriers to you reaching the goals you had set for yourself?
Yeah, I think there might be a bit of challenge managing upwards for me. As I say, I'm a people's person, so I get on very well with the team. But I find my superior, my boss, he is a very old-fashioned type. I actually feel awkward to say that, but very conservative, traditional type leader. So, and me having a young bunch of people working, in our team, there's often a bit of a culture clash or a generation gap, I would imagine.
Okay.
Yeah.
But is it clear between you and him in terms of what he expects of you?
Yeah. Thanks for asking that. I think. He's clear on the performance side. I think, what the scorecard is and all of that. I think it's around the culture that I think it's not perfect. Or it can be better, you know what I'm saying? It's just not in the zone, to put it honestly, I think.
So what I'm hearing you say, Charmaine, if you don't mind me playing it back to you, you're saying that the approach and the culture within the organization itself is what you feel is stifling for you to add the full value that you believe you could add. Am I hearing you correctly?
It's the relationship upwards, I think.
Oh, it's more the relationship than the actual performance.
Yeah. I think it's our team's relationship with the CEO. I mean, he's, as I say, he's quite a traditional, very capable man. It's just, I think, in terms of that culture switch for me has been a bit tricky. To get to work with somebody that's very principled and you do things by the book instead of letting you get on with it. That for me has been a learning curve. Yeah.
Charmaine, I don't want to ignore that part that you mentioned because relationships are very key in us being successful, whichever environment that we are in. I just want to park that a moment though, and I just need us to focus more on the performance itself. With that. I mentioned just when we started that I found it difficult to juggle the job and the management and the operations and etc. I just want to focus a bit more on that side of things because here's the thing: somebody who's traditional, like you've described, of your manager, will probably be won over if he sees the results as well. Do you believe he sees the results?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And for me, it's almost to say, I think everything is clear. The only obstacle is just, I suppose, that it's a small thing in the bigger scheme of things, but I think the results are clear, the measures are very well articulated, and I think we're ticking over very, very well. Yeah.
Have you sat with your boss to just talk about how have you done thus far and
And
maybe bring in what is a challenge to you and just have that open, honest.
Yeah. I think what the company does very well is performance, measures and so forth. But also, I think the intention is that we will talk about performance in terms of leadership and style and stuff like that. So I think that might be an opportunity to bring it in, or just maybe to put it in context of the performance. So this maybe how we can do it even better. I'm thinking on my feet now.
All right, so you're looking at it from a performance management perspective.
Yeah.
All right, but remember, for us, for you and me, it's more. It goes beyond performance management. It's about where do we improve realistically without linking it to remuneration or rating. So that is what I'd like to help with, to say where is it that we really need assistance, especially being in a new role, and how do we then ensure that you become even more successful than you have. When you were in customer service, I mean, you were excellent, you were great, you were on point, and you were energized by that. Are you finding the same energy in your current role?
Yeah, I think, for me it's new still, as I say. I think the entrepreneurial flair, I think, is something that, sometimes it's a nice label to put onto it, but there's lots of long hours that goes into that. I also think maybe work-life balance comes into that a little bit. And being able to say no, and because where I come from, there was formal hours, and customer service before that was a completely different game. So I don't want to talk about that now. But where I am now, I think that's the big thing.
When we address strengths a bit later on, one of the things that we talk about is you can't survive in an environment that doesn't actually complement your strengths. So you're in a territory that is new, from corporate to an entrepreneurial space. It's going to be different. The culture is going to be different, but it's what I always say, you may not have defined the culture, but you certainly keep it alive. So how do we ensure you see the culture you need to see? You can't force them into an 8 to 5, but how do you then adapt and thrive? Because if you are talking about working hours that are so lengthy, that also could be a barrier in ultimately achieving the desired results.
Yeah, and I think, I think maybe a good thing could be, now that you say that, is to to become a bit more flexible, maybe in terms of what we do when as a team, and instead of just going completely leaning over to just getting the job done and overperforming, is just to bring in a bit of flexibility, and maybe that's also a discussion that I can have with the CEO, because that's his temperament. It's just nobody can go home until the job is done, which often is way beyond 7, 8 o'clock at night.
All right, Charmaine, can I please give you a short assignment that I think will help us in moving forward? It is easy for us to come in. Listen, especially when you come from a space where you're a high performer doing great, you expect that you'll continue in that light even in a new role. But the new role does come with new challenges. I'm going to ask you, I like the fact that you're saying you can have this discussion with the CEO. Maybe before our next meeting, see if you can set up a session. Let's maybe come up with questions together that will help us gain insight. Because you may see him as this traditional, and this is the way he leads, but maybe let's understand what he's looking for and how has he experienced you thus far. So maybe let's come up with certain questions, and it will also be nice to extend those questions to your team. And just it will give us a realistic view. And it doesn't have to be you knowing exactly who said what. It could really just be, how are you perceived? How are you showing up with the team? How do they see your performance? And then we can just also take it from there and just have that on the table and it being true. Because remember, you and I contracted that we're going to be as honest as possible with one another. And so that is what's going to help us to see, are we actually thriving in this new environment? What are the things that they recommend? You may see them as traditional, they may see you as inflexible. You know what I mean? So let's then just get into that.
No, I like that.
Is that's going to be doable? All right. So just maybe for a few minutes, you can think about it. We can thresh out maybe just 3 or 5 questions at the most that we think will give us the most insight, and then we'll discuss the results in our next meeting and see how we proceed.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For
it
your
was
time.
Very beneficial.
Yeah. And I think the importance of feedback, and let's not fear it. It helps us to move forward. It helps us to shape and become even better at what we do. Yeah.
Thank you. Powerful.
Thank you so much, Charmaine. Take care.
Thanks. You too, Sandy.